Look, I have been running the Galactic Military Academy's medical wing for 17 cycles now, and I have seen plenty of species try to prove themselves. Vraxi warlords who could bend titanium bars with their bare hands. Keltharian mindweavers who could predict enemy movements 3 steps ahead. Morpheus assassins who could phase through solid matter. But humans were supposed to be the weaklings. The soft ones. The ones who barely survived their entrance exams. So when Cadet Marcus Hale walked into my infirmary on day 1, looking pale and underweight by galactic standards, I honestly thought he would wash out within a week, maybe 2 if he was stubborn. I was wrong. So spectacularly wrong. My name is Dr. Ven Tharek, and I am a Gordanian, which means I stand about 9 feet tall, have regenerative capabilities that make me nearly immortal, and possess enough physical strength to crush most metal. My species has run military medicine for 300 years because, frankly, we are hard to kill and even harder to intimidate. Marcus Hale intimidated me. Not at first, mind you. At first I just thought he was another fragile human who would need constant monitoring. The Academy sits on Praxis 7, a heavy-gravity world that was supposed to weed out the weak. Humans called it brutal. We called it standard. The gravity was 2.4 times Earth normal. The atmospheric pressure could collapse weaker lung structures, and the training regimens were designed by species who considered pain a teaching tool. Marcus showed up with 5 other human cadets. I remember logging their vitals on arrival day. Heart rates elevated, breathing labored, muscle tremors from fighting the gravity. Standard human responses. Dr. Tharek? Marcus had asked, his voice steady despite the obvious strain. Is there a recommended nutrition plan for humans adjusting to high-gravity environments? I had gestured vaguely at the datapad. Supplement intake is listed in Section 7. Try not to break any bones in your first week, cadet. He had smiled. Actually smiled. I will do my best. 3 days later he was back in my medical wing, but not as a patient. Cadet Rena Voss, Athalarian with triple reinforced skeletal structure, had collapsed during atmospheric training. Her breathing apparatus had malfunctioned at 12,000 feet, and she had dropped like a stone during a simulated combat drop. The instructors were still organizing a rescue team when Marcus apparently decided waiting was not an option. I watched the security footage later because I genuinely could not believe the initial reports. Marcus had grabbed an emergency paraglider, which was designed for species with considerably more body mass and muscle density than humans, strapped it on, and jumped. At 12,000 feet, in 2.4 times Earth gravity, with 0 authorization, the paraglider was not designed for human physiology. It pulled against his shoulders hard enough that I later found stress fractures in both clavicles. The wind resistance at that altitude, in that gravity, should have torn a human apart. Marcus reached Rena in 47 seconds. She outweighed him by at least 200 pounds. Her species has a notoriously complex respiratory system that requires precise intervention during failures. Marcus had exactly 90 seconds before permanent brain damage would set in. He managed it in 70. When the official rescue team finally reached them, Marcus had stabilized Rena's breathing, deployed both emergency chutes, and was calmly talking her through her panic response. While his own body was shutting down from the strain, they brought him to me unconscious, with a list of injuries that should have killed him. Fractured collarbones, severely torn shoulder muscles, internal bleeding from the pressure differential, acute hypoxia, early-stage shock. I stabilized him, obviously. That is my job. But while I worked, I kept thinking about that smile from 3 days earlier. That calm, polite question about nutrition. This human had nearly killed himself to save someone he barely knew. When Marcus woke up 6 hours later, his first words were, "Is Rena okay?" "Cadet Voss is fine," I said, scanning his vitals. "You, on the other hand, have decided to test the absolute limits of human durability. Congratulations. You have discovered several new ones." He tried to sit up. I pushed him back down with one finger. "Your shoulders are held together with medical adhesive and hope right now, cadet. Do not move." "How long until I can return to training?" he asked. 3 weeks. Minimum. Humans do not heal as fast as most species here. "Can we make it 2 weeks?" I stared at him. "Did you not hear the part about your shoulders being held together with hope?" "I heard it, sir. But I am already behind on the curriculum because of Earth's gravity difference. I cannot afford to lose 3 weeks." "You cannot afford to permanently damage yourself either, cadet." He met my eyes. There was something in that look. Not defiance. Not stubbornness. Something else. Something I had seen in career soldiers who had survived impossible situations. Dr. Thorick, he said quietly, I did not come here to be average. I came here to prove humans belong in this academy. Every day I spend in this bed is a day someone uses to argue we are too fragile, too weak, too limited. So, can we make it 2 weeks? I considered this. Humans were strange about pride. Most species saw injury as simple fact. Damage occurred, healing happened, life continued, but humans seemed to carry their injuries like weights, constantly trying to prove they were stronger than their limitations. 2.5 weeks, I said finally, and you will follow every single protocol I give you. No exceptions. Yes, sir. He followed every protocol, exceeded several. Actually, I had never seen a human push through rehabilitation exercises with such focused intensity. His pain tolerance was unusual, not because he did not feel pain. Humans feel pain acutely, but because he seemed to categorize it as irrelevant data. Rena visited him every day. She was effusive with her gratitude. Tellurians are not an emotional species, but she seemed genuinely affected by what Marcus had done. He should not have been able to reach me, she told me during one visit. The atmospheric pressure alone should have incapacitated him. How did he even function? Humans have this irritating ability to simply decide that physics does not apply to them when they are scared enough. I said, it is medically fascinating and personally infuriating. Marcus returned to training in exactly 2.5 weeks. I monitored his vitals remotely for the first few days, expecting a relapse. Instead, his performance actually improved. Apparently, nearly dying had somehow made him more effective. Humans. I will never understand them. 4 months passed. Marcus became known among the cadets as reliable. Someone who showed up, did the work, helped others when needed. Not flashy, not aggressive, just steady. Then came the Krell Mountain exercise. The Krell Range is a hostile environment by any species standards. Sub-zero temperatures, thin atmosphere, predatory wildlife that considers most academy cadets a light snack. The exercise was simple. Teams of 6 cadets had to cross 30 miles of mountain terrain in 48 hours while carrying full combat gear. Simple, not easy. Marcus was assigned to Blue Team. 3 Varaxi heavy combat specialists, 1 Keltharian navigator, 1 Morpheus scout, and 1 human endurance specialist. I was stationed at Base Camp Medical, monitoring vitals for all teams. Standard procedure. Most years we lost a few cadets to exposure or wildlife attacks. It was considered acceptable attrition. Hour 34 into the exercise, Blue Team's vitals went haywire. The Keltharian navigator had miscalculated a crossing point. The ice bridge they were traversing collapsed. All 6 cadets fell into a glacial ravine. I watched their vital signs drop. Fast. The 3 Vricone were injured but stable. Their dense body structure had protected them. The Morpheus scout had phased partially during the fall, avoiding the worst impact. The Keltharian navigator was dying. Severe head trauma, multiple internal injuries, body temperature dropping critically fast, and Marcus had landed on his back across a boulder. I saw his vitals spike in a pattern I had only seen once before, when he had rescued Rena. Massive pain response, adrenaline flooding his system, cortisol levels spiking. He was hurt, badly. Then I watched something impossible happen. Marcus's heart rate steadied, his oxygen consumption normalized. His pain indicators just stopped registering. I checked my sensors. No malfunction. Marcus Hale had apparently decided to simply turn off his pain response. The audio feed crackled to life. Blue Team to base camp. We have casualties. Requesting immediate extraction. That was not Marcus's voice. That was one of the Varaxi. Negative. Blue Team command responded. Extraction birds cannot fly in current weather conditions. Estimated wait time 6 hours. 6 hours. The Keltharian would be dead in 2. The audio feed went silent. I watched Marcus's vitals. Steady. Controlled. Wrong for someone with his injuries. Then his location beacon started moving. What is he doing? I muttered. Marcus was climbing. Out of the ravine. In sub-zero temperatures. With what my sensors told me were at least 3 cracked ribs. And significant spinal trauma. Humans are not supposed to be able to do that. I pulled up the team's positioning data. The ravine was 200 feet deep, nearly vertical ice walls. Professional climbers with proper equipment would struggle with that ascent. Marcus reached the top in 18 minutes. Then his beacon started moving again. Fast. He was running. Dr. Tharek? One of my assistants gestured at the main display. Cadet Hale's vitals are. I do not understand these readings, neither did I. His body was operating in a state that should not be possible. Pain suppression that extreme should cause unconsciousness. The energy expenditure from climbing and running should have depleted him completely. Instead, Marcus ran 4 miles across hostile mountain terrain to the nearest emergency supply cache. He retrieved a medical stasis pod designed for critical transport. Then he ran 4 miles back, 8 miles, in 41 minutes, at altitude, in gravity that was crushing. With critical injuries, when he reached the ravine again, he rappelled back down, using a climbing line that he secured to his own body weight, lowered the stasis pod to the team, and talked to Verkasi through stabilizing the Keltharian navigator enough to seal him in the pod. Only then did Marcus's vitals start to crash. I scrambled the emergency medical team immediately. We reached Blue Team 3 hours later. The Keltharian navigator was alive. Stable. The stasis pod had preserved him perfectly. Marcus was unconscious. Hypothermic. His body had finally acknowledged the damage he had been ignoring. I treated him personally. Again. While I worked, the Vrixi team leader stood nearby, watched. Dr. Tharak, the Raxi said quietly. I have fought in 17 campaigns across 9 worlds. I have seen warriors perform impossible acts through sheer will. But that human, he should be dead. Multiple times over. How is he still breathing? I did not have an answer. Not one that made medical sense. When Marcus woke, 2 days later, his first words were predictable. Did everyone make it? Yes, Cadet. Everyone made it. Because you apparently do not understand the concept of physical limitations, he smiled weakly. Humans are good at ignoring limitations, sir. Ignoring and surviving are different things, Cadet Hale. Are they, though? And that, I think, is when I finally understood what made humans dangerous. Marcus spent another week in my medical wing. During that time, something shifted in the Academy's atmosphere. Word spread. Not through official channels, obviously. The Academy does not exactly celebrate cadets breaking protocol. But cadets talk. They always talk. The story grew with each retelling. By day 3, Marcus had supposedly climbed out of a 300-foot ravine. By day 5, he had fought off a pack of ice predators barehanded. By day 7, some cadets were claiming he had carried all 5 teammates out simultaneously. Ridiculous. Obviously. But the core truth remained. A human cadet had refused to let his team die, and had somehow survived doing the impossible to prevent it. I noticed the change when other cadets started visiting. Not just his teammates. Not just humans. Vixi warriors who normally would not acknowledge a human's existence. Keltharian strategists who considered Earth species beneath notice. Even a few Morpheus operatives, who rarely spoke to anyone. They came. They nodded respectfully. Some brought small tokens. Energy bars compatible with human biology. Extra thermal blankets. Data pads loaded with training materials. Marcus accepted everything with that same quiet politeness. Never boastful. Never drawing attention to what he had done. It drove me absolutely insane. You realize you are being studied now, I told him during one examination. Every species in this academy is trying to figure out how you keep surviving situations that should kill you. Is that a problem, sir? He asked. It is a problem because some of them will test you. Push you. Try to find your breaking point. Everyone has a breaking point, Dr. Tharak. Yes. But humans seem remarkably skilled at moving theirs further away whenever it becomes inconvenient. He laughed. Actually laughed. That is probably the nicest compliment I have gotten since arriving here, sir. I released him back to training with strict orders to avoid anything involving heights, extreme temperatures, or rescuing anyone for at least a month. He agreed far too quickly. I should have known better. 6 weeks later, the Academy held its annual combat trials, mixed species teams competing in randomized scenarios designed to test tactical thinking, adaptability, and survival skills under pressure. Winners received ceremonial honors and preferential placement after graduation. Marcus was assigned to Gold Team with 4 other cadets. I had never treated before, which I took as a positive sign. Perhaps he would have a normal competition experience for once. The first trial was urban warfare simulation. Gold Team placed 3rd. Respectable. The second trial was zero-gravity combat. Gold Team placed 5th. Marcus apparently struggled with the disorientation, which made perfect sense given human evolutionary development and consistent gravity. The third trial was deep-water resource extraction. Gold Team placed 2nd. Marcus had adapted surprisingly well, despite humans not being an aquatic species. Everything was going Normally, I should have known it would not last. The fourth trial was the one that changed everything. It was supposed to be a standard hostage extraction scenario. Automated defense systems. Simulated enemy combatants. Time limit of 20 minutes. Failure meant point deductions, not actual danger, except someone had made a critical error in the automated system's programming. I was monitoring from the medical observation deck when it happened. The simulation area was a multi-level structure designed to mimic a terrorist stronghold. Gold Team entered through the lower level, moving tactically, communicating efficiently. Then the defense systems activated. Not simulated fire. Real ammunition. Live rounds. I saw it on the sensors before anyone else did. The system had defaulted to lethal protocols instead of training mode. Some catastrophic programming failure. Shut it down, I roared at the control booth. Those are live rounds. The technicians scrambled. The system is not responding. Manual override is failing. On the screens, Gold Team had scattered for cover. They had not realized yet. The first few rounds had missed, so they thought it was still training ammunition. Then Cadet Yuri Volkov, a human heavy weapons specialist, took a round through the shoulder. Real blood. Real damage. Real screaming. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos on the audio feed. Love fire. Love fire. Everyone find hard cover now. The team moved. Fast. Professional. But they were trapped. The automated systems had sealed the exits. Standard protocol for hostage scenarios. Prevent enemy escape. Except, now it was preventing friendly extraction. 4 cadets pinned down. 1 injured. No exits. And a defense system pumping out 300 rounds per minute. I activated my emergency medical beacon and grabbed my field kit. I need a security override team at the combat trial facility immediately. We have cadets under live fire. The response time was 45 seconds. Felt like hours. On the screen, Marcus was moving. Not to cover. Toward Volkov. Cadet Hale, stay in cover. That was his team leader, a Vraxi named Kron. Marcus ignored him. He sprinted across open ground, grabbed Volkov, and dragged him behind a concrete barrier. Rounds chewed up the floor centimeters from his feet. I need to stop the bleeding, Marcus shouted. Cover me for 30 seconds. The team laid down suppressing fire on the automated turrets. It would not destroy them. Training weapons could not. But it provided enough distraction for Marcus to work. I watched him apply a tourniquet with hands that did not shake. 30 seconds. Exactly. Then he was moving again. Hale, what are you doing? Kron demanded. The override panel is accessible from inside the room, Marcus said, his voice eerily calm. I can reach it. You will be killed. Probably. But if I do not try, we definitely all die when the security team breaches and the system targets them too. I saw his plan a split second before he executed it. The override panel was mounted on the far wall, completely exposed to 3 separate turret positions. Reaching it would require crossing approximately 40 feet of open ground under concentrated fire. No species in the academy could survive that. The turrets fired at a rate designed to stop Vraxi warriors in full combat armor. Marcus was wearing a training vest and determination. He moved. I have watched the footage approximately 200 times since then, trying to understand the physics of what I witnessed. The speed. The reaction time. The absolute refusal to be hit. Humans call it getting in the zone. A state where conscious thought stops and instinct takes over. Where the body moves faster than the mind can process. Where probability becomes irrelevant. Marcus serpentined across the open ground. Bullets tracked him. Close. Impossibly close. 1 round grazed his leg. Another tore through his vest without touching skin. A third missed his head by less than 2 centimeters. He reached the panel. Punched in the emergency override code. The turrets stopped. 17 seconds. That is how long he was exposed. The security team breached 8 seconds later. They found Gold Team shaken but alive. They found Volkov stabilized and conscious. They found the automated systems deactivated. They found Marcus Hale sitting against the wall, bleeding from his leg, staring at nothing. I reached him 90 seconds after breach. Cadet. Where are you injured? He blinked. Focused on me. Just the leg, sir. Graze. Volkov needs priority treatment. Volkov is already being transported. Let me see the leg. It was more than a graze. The round had carved a furrow through his calf muscle. Deep. Bleeding steadily. Painful enough that most species would be unconscious from shock. This is going to hurt, I said, preparing the medical adhesive. It already hurts, sir. Might as well fix it. I treated the wound while security cleared the facility. Around us, Academy staff were scrambling to understand how the system had failed so catastrophically. Heads would roll for this. Careers would end, but Marcus had saved 5 lives. Again, the Academy commandant, a 12-foot-tall Vraxi war veteran named General Threx, arrived while I was finishing the bandaging. He looked at Marcus, looked at the deactivated turrets, looked at the blood on the floor. "Cadet Hale," Threx said, his voice like grinding stone. "You disobeyed your team leader's direct order to remain in cover." "Yes, sir. I did." "You exposed yourself to lethal fire without authorization." "Yes, sir." "You risked your life for teammates you have known for less than 2 months." "Sir, I did not really think about the time frame. They needed help." Threx stared at him. "I have known the general for 9 years. I have never seen him look uncertain about anything." "Come with me, cadet," Threx said finally. Marcus stood wincing slightly on his injured leg. "Am I being expelled, sir?" "No, cadet. You are being reassessed." I watched him leave, Threx towering over Marcus, the human limping but keeping pace. 3 hours later I received a summons to the commandant's office. Unusual. In 9 years I had been summoned exactly twice, both times for major medical emergencies requiring immediate command decisions. I arrived to find not just General Threx, but the entire Academy Leadership Council. 12 species. 12 military traditions, all focused on a datapad displaying Marcus Hale's complete Academy record. "Dr. Tharak," Threx began, "you have treated Cadet Hale more than any other student in Academy history. Medical opinion, is he stable?" I considered the question carefully. "Define stable, General. Is he a danger to himself or others through reckless behavior?" "No, sir. Cadet Hale does not act recklessly. He acts decisively when others are in danger." "There is a difference." One of the council members, a Keltharian admiral, spoke up. "He has nearly died 4 times in 7 months, Doctor. That suggests either terrible luck or poor judgment." "It suggests," I said carefully, "that Cadet Hale values other lives more than his own safety, which traditionally is considered a virtue in military service." "It is a virtue that gets soldiers killed," the admiral countered. "It is also a virtue that wins wars," I replied. "Respectfully, Admiral." Threx made a rumbling sound that might have been amusement. "The doctor makes a fair point. Continue your assessment, Doctor. Cadet Hale is physically unremarkable by galactic standards. Humans are weaker, slower, and more fragile than most species represented in this academy. However, they possess psychological resilience that I have never observed in any other species. They can function through pain, fear, and exhaustion that would incapacitate others. They refuse to accept limitations that would stop different species. And most significantly, they form pack bonds that override self-preservation instincts." "Pack bonds?" another council member asked. "Humans evolved as tribal creatures, sir. When they adopt someone into their group, that person's survival becomes as important as their own, sometimes more important. Cadet Hale has apparently decided that everyone in this academy is part of his pack." The room went quiet. Finally, Threx spoke. "The Galactic Council has a designation for individuals who display extraordinary valor across multiple engagements. The Eternal Honor Archive. Names entered into that database are recognized across all member species as examples of the highest military virtue." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "General, Cadet Hale has not even graduated yet." "No, but his actions have been reviewed by this council. 3 separate incidents of extraordinary courage, multiple lives saved, all while maintaining academic standing and training performance." Threx looked directly at me. "Doctor, in your medical opinion, would Cadet Hale survive the Honor Archive ceremony? It requires standing at attention for approximately 2 hours during the formal induction." I thought about Marcus's injuries. The leg wound, the not quite healed ribs from the mountain rescue, the shoulder damage that still gave him trouble in cold weather. "Yes, sir. Humans are exceptionally stubborn about standing when they are told to." "Good. The ceremony is in 4 days. Cadet Hale will be informed tomorrow morning. You will ensure he is medically cleared to attend." "Sir, he is going to be impossible after this." Threx's expression might have been a smile. Hard to tell with Rakali's facial structure. "Doctor, I suspect Cadet Hale will be exactly the same. That appears to be his most dangerous quality." 4 days later, I watched Marcus Hale stand at attention in the Grand Hall while General Threx read his commendations to an audience of 2,000 cadets and academy staff. His leg was still bandaged. His shoulders still had restricted range of motion. His ribs still caused him pain when he breathed too deeply. He stood perfectly still for 2 hours and 17 minutes, When Threx finally announced that Marcus's name was being entered into Earth's Eternal Honor Archive, the first human ever to receive such recognition while still a cadet, the applause was not polite. It was not merely respectful, it was genuine. From species who had initially considered humans too weak to belong here, Marcus accepted the honor with the same quiet politeness he brought to everything. No grand speech, no dramatic declarations, just a simple "Thank you, sir. I will try to live up to this." Afterward, I found him sitting alone in the medical wing waiting room staring at the ceremonial medal. "You should be celebrating with your teammates, Cadet," I said. "I will, sir. Just needed a quiet minute first." "Does it hurt? The standing?" "Yes, sir. But good pain. The kind that reminds you that you are alive." I sat down next to him. Silence stretched between us. "Dr. Therak," Marcus said eventually. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think this changes anything? For other humans who want to join the Academy?" I considered this. "Yes, Cadet. I believe it changes everything. You have proven that humans do not survive here despite their limitations. You survive because of qualities that cannot be measured in physical strength or speed. You have given the Galactic Council something to think about." He nodded slowly. "Good. That is good. Now go celebrate before I invent a medical reason to keep you here overnight." He smiled and stood, wincing only slightly. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for everything." I watched him leave, limping toward the sounds of celebration echoing from the cadet quarters. My species has run military medicine for 300 years. We pride ourselves on understanding the limits of biological systems, on knowing what is possible and what is merely wishful thinking. Marcus Hale had taught me that humans do not care about those distinctions. When they decide something is necessary, possibility becomes irrelevant. His name is etched in the Eternal Honor Archive now. A permanent record that a human cadet, barely 7 months into training, had proven himself worthy of the galaxy's highest military recognition. I suspect it will not be the last time a human surprises us. In fact, I am counting on it.